Next, I want to introduce Charlie Knowles. Charlie Knowles is the co-founder and the executive director of the Wildlife Conservation Network. He's a man who's got an incredible vision for wildlife conservation and inspires me all the time with his passion and his compassion for both wildlife and the people who make wildlife conservation happen. So it's my pleasure to introduce Charlie Knowles. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jay. You got this, right? Great. Thank you, Jay, and thank you all for being here. It's great to see you again. I know we had a lot of competition today. We've got Fleet Week, we've got Obama in town, we've got Litquake, we've got Chick Tech, and my favorite, San Francisco Beer Olympics. There's over 300 events today, so it's good to see who are the real wildlife lovers here. I want to start off by thanking our incredible underwriters who helped make this weekend possible. Disney, the Wells Fargo Private Bank, Houston Zoo, Nature's Path, San Diego Zoo, and the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation. So thank you for your support. And WCN is based right here in San Francisco. We have a staff of 10, and we have over 100 volunteers working this weekend, the people receiving you at the door and working the tables and meals and everything. So I want to give a big round of applause to the dedicated staff and the volunteers. And I want to, for those of you who were here last year, I want to finish a conversation we were having there. Then you may have remembered when Jane Goodall was up on stage, she was talking and showed this incredibly powerful video of the Chimpanga, where she has these chimps, and she released one and it came up and hugged her, and she said, you know, I really want to build a new sanctuary, get them their own private island. And I think at that time I said, can't we do that for Jane? Can't we do that for Jane's 80th birthday? Well, lo and behold, January, Jane called me and said, Charlie, I'd like you to host my 80th birthday. And I said, oh, Jane, that'd be lovely. What did you have in mind? She said, well, I was thinking of something maybe in your living room, maybe 60 people, some vegetarian food prepared by volunteers. And I said, that sounds great, Jane. She goes, oh, yes, and I want to raise that $700,000 for the chimps. I said, well, Jane, we're going to have a few more people if we're going to do that. And she goes, all right, as long as it's not in one of those San Francisco hotel ballrooms. So I said, okay. So the first thing I did was got a San Francisco ballroom. Of course, it was the Julia Morgan Ballroom, and any of you who know that know it has an incredible history and is beautiful. And we invited our good friends, and a good friend of Jane Goodall's, Dave Matthews, came and played. And in that evening, we were able to raise $1.3 million, all of which went to the chimps in the sanctuary. Quick show of hands of those that were at the birthday. Yeah, it rocked. Yeah. So her 81st birthday is in April. You're all welcome. Next, I'd like to acknowledge a truly extraordinary company that's just like right across the street from here. Zynga, who many of you know through their Farmville games and their social media, is an organization, a company that's really committed to social causes and making a change through their zynga.org. And WCN was blessed to have them contact us a couple months ago and say, you know, we'd love to put WCN in the launch of our Farmville Oasis expansion game. And I said, well, that'd be terrific. And they said, well, our goal is to get our players engaged and see if we can raise $500,000. I said, that's really terrific. And lo and behold, they called us in 2 weeks and said, well, we've already met that. Is it okay if we go to $700,000? I said, yes, it is. And they did that. And they granted us $700,000, all of which goes to support programs. And I want to bring up Abby Spate from Zynga.org on stage. Abby? So in appreciation of all you've done, we have a little gift here.
This is great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
A little note from all the conservationists there. Thank you, Abby. Well, I wish wildlife conservation was all fun and games and good news, but as all of you know, there's a lot of bad news in wildlife conservation. Many of you probably heard last week the report from World Wildlife Fund saying that in the last 40 years, 50% of the wildlife on Earth has disappeared. In the last 40 years, just before I was born. Okay. In addition, our own Save the Elephants, who you'll hear from next, commissioned a very detailed scientific study that showed that in a 3-year period, over 100,000 elephants were killed for their ivory. And finally, with our own Ethiopian wolf conservation program, the remaining 500 wolves in the wild, there was a rabies outbreak, and in some of the populations, a third of them died. But as Jane Goodall would say, there are reasons for hope. And as I look in this room and be here this weekend, I see 3 incredible reasons for hope. The first is the 33 conservationists from whom you'll hear from today that are living and working the field and who have dedicated their life to wildlife conservation. The second is the many organizations we partner with. It's no coincidence that we're called the Wildlife Conservation Network, because we believe it takes a global coalition of different organizations to solve these wildlife problems. And you'll see over 70 organizations represented here, all of whom we invite to come for free, so to be part of the coalition, to connect with you, and to move the needle. But most importantly, my reason for hope is all of you. It's individuals that will save wildlife through your individual actions, through your financial commitments, through your participation, and for caring. So thank you. Thank you for being my reasons for hope. You can applaud yourself. And I'm thrilled to see so many people here who are here for the first time. So I'd be remiss if I didn't say a couple of words about the Wildlife Conservation Network. I was one of the founders 13 years ago, and we're really founded around the idea that we believe to save wildlife, you need people who are working in the field, working with local communities, who understand the issues, who can develop solutions that benefit not only wildlife and the greater ecosystem, but those communities as well. And so we find these people, these incredible conservation heroes. We give them money, but also, as Jige talked about, we provide training, help them develop their organizations, and we make these long-term commitments to their success. And you'll meet these incredible people today. We did a couple other things differently. One thing we do is we allow you to make donations to these organizations, and we pass through 100%. So if you want to support lion conservation in Kenya and you give us $100, that $100 will end up in Kenya supporting those species. We're very efficient with funds. 92% of all our funds go to programs. And there's an organization called Charity Navigator, which rates over 5,000 organizations. And WCN is rated as the #1 international wildlife conservation organization. And I mentioned that one of the key drivers to being success is money in the field. And I'm incredibly proud to say that to date, we've raised and deployed over $45 million for wildlife conservation. Thank you. But I do realize that you're not here to hear me, so I think I'm done. You don't have to clap that. You can go. Yep, that's what I wanted to say.